All right, Salena. Well, obviously, the big story right now, of course, in Pennsylvania is this recount that's going on. A recount of an election that has a 16,400 vote gap, even in a state as large as Pennsylvania, is really, honestly, something of a waste of time and a waste of money. But doggone it, Bob Casey's going to do both.
Yeah, it's really, and these aren't even my words. These are words of Democrats across the state, including Bob Casey's, his father's lieutenant governor, Mark Singal, who served with his father for 2 terms and was actually Bob Casey Sr.'s, was the acting governor for 8 months when Bob Casey Sr. had the heart and liver transplant, has said it's time to go. There's no reason to put the state through this. There's no reason to cost the taxpayers this money, and they're really just sort of stunned that he has made this decision. And the scuttlebutt going on is that what if this isn't about knowing you're recounting the votes? What if this is about setting precedent and weakening Pennsylvania's voter law? And that's the unfortunate sort of reaction that people are starting to have, because there's no logical reason for him to be doing this.
No, and look, I mean, I went through the Minnesota recount. You know, I was there for that. I wrote an extensive piece afterwards analyzing how the recount was handled, and that was one of the very few successful recounts in which an election result was changed. And I was just mentioning this in the first segment. The reason why is because the gap was only 212 votes to start off with, and the actual count only shifted about less than 550 votes. I forget what the exact number, but it was under 550 votes. So if you've got if you're within a couple of hundred votes, recount might make a difference. Yeah. But if you're at 16,400 votes, a recount is not going to change anything, because we're actually very, very good at counting ballots. Something we do very well in the United States. Every single state does it very well. You can argue about all the other processes, but the actual counting of ballots is done extremely accurately. And I think that Miami Herald, I went back and take a look at this. I believe it was the Miami Herald analyzed the 3 successful recounts that had taken place since 2000 at that time. And the average shift of votes in a recount, in the successful recounts, right, the ones that actually changed election results, the average vote shift was 311 votes. And that's the scope that you're looking at. So if you're at 16,000 votes, this is a waste of time. It's a waste of money.
Yeah, and, you know, Bob Casey he has been a statewide elected official in various positions, from auditor general to state auditor to state treasurer to U.S. senator since 1996. He could have left it with grace. And instead, he's leaving this election looking like someone who is trying to steal an election, looks like someone who is a sore loser. And everything that people believed who they thought Bob Casey was, he's a nice guy, he's not, a guy that goes on cable news and rages. Well, maybe he doesn't do that, but he certainly has changed the public's perception of character. And he's not the guy now that's going to be announced at not a Lincoln dinner, those are Republicans, a Jefferson Jackson dinner, and he comes and he speaks and people applaud him, and he'll get a nice speaking fee from some speaker bureau, and they'll name schools after him. Not now. That ship has sailed.
Yep. We're speaking with Salena Zito from Washington Examiner and New York Post, and among many other places where she contributes. Salena, on the ground in some of these recount counties, what are you? Obviously, you're hearing some of the things that you just said, right?
Right.
Do you think that that is eroding any confidence in Josh Shapiro? Because Josh Shapiro kind of went into this process as one of the bench guys, right? He's one of the guys that could come off the bench in 2028. Do you think that this is eroding his standing in Pennsylvania?
So yeah, you're right. It is. He's, Shapiro has always been viewed as a talented political athlete, and people thought it was very wise of him not to take that position as vice presidential nominee with Kamala Harris, and him not saying anything is not good for him, and here's why. I don't know if your audience is old enough to remember 2000, but in 2000, Ed Rendell, for a future Pennsylvania governor, was chairman of the DNC. He had already had 2 successive terms as Philadelphia's mayor, right? He was very popular. He was called America's mayor. And he told Al Gore December 13th of 2000, it's time to get out. He said it publicly. He called a press conference, and he forced Gore to get out. And people have a level of expectation that Shapiro should be doing something like that right now. And he's not. And I've been watching his Twitter feed, his official Twitter feed. And, he's putting things out of things he's doing, and rightly so. These are things he's doing, except he's getting fleeced with everything that he says because people are saying, why are you not coming out on this? This is the guy that when there was a truck that caused a ramp on I-95 in Philadelphia to collapse, he was there within, I think, an hour, and within days that ramp was fixed, right? So, and when East Palestine happened, which was on the border of Pennsylvania and impacted Darlington Township in Pennsylvania, he was there the next day. So there's this, expectation that he is a guy that shows up and is good at governing. So not taking a more sort of stern role and a leadership role on this has hurt him. He did put out a statement about the Bucks County commissioners and their shenanigans earlier this week, but not really about Casey.
He did, and it was belated, though, right? I mean, it was actually a pretty good statement but it was belated. It was after the Supreme Court had issued that rather stunning, bold capital letters, shall not be counted. Yeah, and with the concurrences is like, maybe you guys don't need to read English, but we've already ruled on this, and you're not supposed to be doing this. So it wasn't exactly a profiles and courage moment.
So glad you pointed that out. It was, and by the way, our state Supreme Court is 5-2 majority Democrat in my state, right?
Yeah.
And for them to put out a statement in all caps because, oh my God, people, we've told you this already. Don't do it. Stop doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a remarkable statement from the Supreme Court. Very much welcomed. We got about 30 seconds left, Salena. How long do you think that this recount's going to go? And is there any hope of any sort of shift here whatsoever for Casey?
Well, it shifted by 1 vote yesterday through I don't know how many counties. Sorry, it's just so absurd to make.
Well, enough said.
It ends on Tuesday, and Tuesday will be the end. And Bob Casey will have lost again because he's already lost.
He's never going to get tired of the losing, Salena. Just to borrow a phrase from Donald Trump. Salena Zito, Washington Examiner, New York Post, thank you so much for being with us.